Good.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday Food Science Department seminar. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing to you my business partner, Shwetha Shrivatsa. And she's going to talk about her journey on starting a food business with me. So God bless her for taking that plunge. I'll start by telling you a little bit about Shwetha. She has an interesting background. She's not a food scientist. She actually got her undergraduate degree in electronics and communication from RV College of Engineering in Bangalore, India. She came to the US after graduating. She worked as a software engineer in Infosys and did work for IBM, Apple, those kind of companies. She is extremely knowledgeable about SAP Warehouse. It's an enterprise server software system. We talked a little bit about that in my class about why they're important with Apple and Chrysler. And then she went and did her master's degree at Penn State University. She got an MBA. Shortly after that, she got hired by Sears. And she worked as a senior marketing director for their seasonal. So she has a very varied degree. She's never been an electrical engineer. So you people that are getting a food science degree, this is a good opportunity to think about outside the box, what else you can do with that degree, or where else you can go. With that, I'm going to pass it on to you, Shway.
All right. Thank you, John, for that wonderful introduction. Hello, everybody, and thank you for this opportunity to share my story. All right. I'd like to start by this poem. I'm not going to read this poem, but this is something that has stayed with me since high school. I had to learn it for high school. And up until this point, I thought that Robert Frost was British, but he's not. He's actually very American. So anyway, that's a fun fact for today. But for me, this poem means charting your own course, like picking your own path, doing your own thing. And that has, as John kind of already gave you guys a quick introduction, I've done a whole bunch of very different, disparate things, whether be it a degree, be it work experience. So, what does that have anything to do with what I'm doing today? And I think it's just the one common theme is probably this learnability, this idea of experimenting and then trying something, and what are the transferable skills that you could apply. And had I stayed as a software engineer, what would I guess I'm hoping that I would have used that learnability to try to learn more different aspects of the same journey. But I think what connects everything for me is just the idea of learning, experimenting, and then charting my own path and seeing what are the transferable skills. So right after my degree, I decided I got a job with Infosys because that was the big software boom at that point in India. And very quick, the opportunity, and this is all kind of related to as we go through the presentation. But for me, it was identifying an opportunity. The opportunity was employability at that point. It was learning, SAP was brand new, and especially the data warehouse part. So that was, it was seizing the opportunity. And then I decided I really wanted to do something different. I wanted to be more on the, strategic side. So I thought an MBA would be the good next step. And after my MBA, I started off in Sears, but it started off in supply chain and then moved into category management. So I was the buyer, deciding the product assortment, etc., for seasonal products, which is like Halloween, Christmas, etc. And here is this brown girl decide, kind of being a category manager for seasonal, which is so embedded in popular culture. So it was, again, that learnability. I had to learn about, what are the popular culture icons, etc. And then use my engineering skills to kind of say, okay, what should be the mix? It's more than a degree, it was just the way of thinking that helped me be successful in my career with Sears for almost 11 years. And from category management, I went into marketing. Again, most people around me had communication degrees. I was the only one who came with an engineering degree. But then again, to be successful, I had to understand the consumer aspect. And then I went into the more mathematical side of marketing, or the data-driven side of marketing, vis-a-vis the creative part. And I think now marketing is a function, or everything as a function, is all driven by data. So I think that thinking helped me, and kind of will illustrate how that's also helpful for our business in the next couple of slides. And then my family, I mean, I think somewhere along the line, I could not separate the corporate or the professional Shwetha from the personal Shwetha. So a lot of why I started the business, how my family and friends and extended network help shape even the entrepreneurial journey, it's all ingrained, it's all part of it. So so that's what I wanted to kind of leave you with about learnability and constantly experimenting and looking at what skills are transferable, especially for those of you in the early stages of your career as you're trying to decide your career path. I think that is, when John and I were having this conversation yesterday, and I said, oh, I'm going to talk about this. And he's like, yeah, as a young graduate, I went into a lab. I was not allowed to touch the lab equipment, but I looked at the manuals. I was reading manuals for fun. So I'm not asking you to be like him, but what I'm saying is, I think it's just this idea of trying to learn, apply, question, experiment. That is something that would serve you no matter what career path you choose. Okay, let's delve right in. In order to start a food business or any business, I think the fundamental thing is why? Why are you doing this? And my recommendation is to find a personal cause. So again, bringing in that family aspect from before. My why is both my kids have food allergies, and as an allergy mom, it was so frustrating combing through labels, having to train myself, read, ask, so that it has to be safe. I don't want to be administering the EpiPen or Benadryl or whatever it may be. And then it's like, as I started reading labels, I'm like, oh my God, I do not even recognize any of this. This seems like, a chemical lab manual. These are things I don't know. Like, what am I eating? Like, what is the nutrition? What is it doing to my body? And it was just a very, very frustrating experience. And that almost led me to, casually, I met John at a friend's Thanksgiving dinner, and I'm like, hey, I'm kind of thinking about doing something. One of the ideas is food. What do you think? And then we just started to talk. And then a few months later, we met. John was in Nashville at that point, and then they moved back to Illinois, and we met at the Palatine Street Fest. And he's like, hey, are you still thinking about food? And I'm like, yeah, maybe, yes. And we just started chatting, and at a street fest was born Symphony Snacks. So I think the why is very important, because being an entrepreneur or trying to do something that has not been done before is extremely painful, frustrating, lots of challenges, but what kind of is remains your North Star or your guiding principle is why you're doing this. So again, for those of you at the very beginning of your career, kind of, this is decision making to say, what do you want to do? Do you want to remain in academia? Do you want to, get more degrees to enhance your learning journey, if you will? Do you want to be in, do you want to find an industry? Which industry? Where does it make sense? What type of company? So find something that makes sense to you, like find that personal connection, find a cause, and then that will really carry you along as you hit roadblocks. And I like everything in life, the only guarantee is roadblocks. Okay, so the next step is to build the right team or find that right partner. So finding someone with a complementary skill set, so finding a partner or a set of partners. And so for example, in Symphony, John has spent an illustrious career in corporate food science with Mars. It's a legendary company. He's done so many different things, but his experience has predominantly been in food science. And mine, on the other hand, has been from consulting to retail, all over the place. But I think together we're able to approach that shared cause, which is finding food that is tasty, nutritious, and helps the allergy parent, so to speak. That is our shared cause, and we approach it from very, very different angles. And if I had to find another business person as a as a partner, we might not even, we might have quit a long time ago. Or if John had found another partner, I guarantee you they would not have moved past equations. So I think this is, it's so important to find someone that has complementary skill set, yet shares your vision. And if you're friends with them, that's even better, because you could have fun. Again, for a lot of you earlier on in your career, what does this mean? Like, you're not going to start the your first day on the job saying, hey, I want to pick so and so, so and so, and so and so. But what it means is be a team player. Like, there is no I in team. Super cliched statement. Work with cross-functional teams. Again, whether it's HR, marketing, you might be on the research and development side or the product management side. Sit with the quality people, sit with the manufacturing folks, finance. Guarantee you have to find a good friend in finance. Just understand the various cross-functional functions. How can you learn from them? What are the transferable skills? Is there a shared goal that you can identify and then communicate that? So I think that is super, super crucial. And then even for those of you still, pursuing your degrees, this is when you meet with you kind of meet earlier on, understand what the lab manuals mean, take courses across other, or attend seminars. Even if taking a course is not practical, it's just how can you get that cross-functional experience. I think that is very, very important. Now this is just take the plunge. So again, John reminded me that for what, a lot of you might think, hey, I'm still in school, I'm still earlier on in my career, I'd like to think about this later, like how is this relevant to me? You could still compare this to, writing a research paper or writing a research proposal, or doing a research project, or your very first project on the job. Whatever it is, this thinking of a strategic component and then an executional component, I think would be really helpful. And this really served us well. So I'll start with the strategic framework. What we used was the business model canvas. Again, it's just a fancy term, but it was just a visual picturization of what we should be considering. There are dime a dozen models, but I will spend some time on the business model canvas. Here it talks about, the center of it is the value proposition, like why, what are you doing? So in our case, we were trying to solve, at that point, we thought we wanted a snack that helped kids with food allergies, that was free of the top 9 allergens. So that was the value proposition to enter a market which is so crowded. The food business, as you guys know, is extremely competitive, lots of huge players. So this was our value proposition. And then, identifying key partners, key activity, what are your key resources, what are the customer segments? So initially we started this exercise. Actually, we had a couple of interns from Penn State. This was just the first year into the pandemic, and they were, it was just an unfortunate time, but we seized the opportunity. We had these interns, we had a problem that we were trying to solve, and this is what we used. And we were trying to identify, like, what are customers? Yes, we want to make a snack, but what are the key factors of that snack? Like, what are we solving? Who are we what problem are we addressing? Who's our target audience? And we did a series of interviews, and that's where we zoned in on the mom with kids with allergies. And okay, that's the problem we're trying to solve, but how do we, if we just gave them something and said, hey, this is free of top 9 allergens, but it does not look appealing, it does not taste right, it has the wrong texture, we realized that those were very key attributes that the mom and the kid and their family was looking for, not just solving for this, but also, like, it had to taste correct, it had to be appealing to the child. And for us, we were like, we just didn't want to dump a bunch of empty starch or use fillers, etc. So nutrition was something. So here we had all these different variables, so to speak, and then that was what we had to solve. So again, having that solving thinking, having that mindset, that framework really helped bring everything together. And this was just one of the ways. And then the other thing we had to think about from a business standpoint is, like, what is the revenue stream? What are the channels? Where are we going to sell? Again, if you're looking at this as a research proposal, it's like, where is your revenue stream? Are you going to partner with a business? Are you going to partner with, something from the FDA or the USDA or some other organization? Like, where is that source of income going to be to fund this research? That's something this might help you do. Again, from a customer segment perspective, you might want to think who your audience is. What are you trying to solve? Is it, the sorghum checkoff, for example, is a group of sorghum growers, and they have a lot of research projects, but theirs is their customer would be the grower. So they don't care about, I shouldn't say they don't care, but their focus is more about what makes sense to the grower. So if you are writing a proposal or you're working on a proposal for the farmer, for the grower, know who your audience is and what is important to them. Like I said, there are dime a dozen strategic frameworks. You don't have to use one, but it just makes it simpler and helps put all the different thoughts together. And then the second most important aspect of this is the executional aspect. So we have, you start with, yes, you have an idea, you've kind of identified your big areas, and then build that business plan, put that all in, like what's your vision, what's your mission. Again, if you translate it to research, to a research project or a research paper, it's the big why. That would be part of the plan, putting that into words. Financial details from a business standpoint, it's like, okay, what are your expenses, what's your cost, what's the pricing, what's your revenue stream. Funding, is it external, is it internal? If you are, I had to do this even at Sears. As a buyer, I had the P&L for, as a category manager / buyer, I had the P&L for the entire online seasonal division. So I had a budget. That was my open to buy. When we went on our sourcing trips, this is all the money I had to spend. And then what are the sales it's going to translate to. So all of those details today is helping with our business, saying that, okay, who are we buying? What are the suppliers? Are we getting a better deal? Can we grow with them? How do we, what are the cost-effective ways in which, without compromising our goal of, quality, nutrition, etc., how can we achieve that financial metric? So all of that goes into that kind of thinking. Then some of the nitty-gritties are, the business, this is for any business entity, like how do you want to set up, etc. So you have to decide whether it's an LLC, LLP, etc. And then for a food business comes with its own share of regulatory requirements, local, not just the FDA, you have local, county, city. The city of Chicago, we learned the hard way, has a lot more requirements, and not necessarily certifications, but it's the same certification approved by a different entity. So there's a lot of paperwork involved. And then, the licenses are, it could be a slightly more technical license, which is a food manager certification, handling certification, whatever. I just did it, I should know. Then we have, you have your entity certificate, you have your insurance certificate. So they just a lot of licensing. And again, depending on your channel, since a farmer's market is one of our biggest channels, we have to adhere to the village laws, and they kind of spell that out. But it could be, if you're doing B2B, then it's a whole new set of licenses. So understand that this takes time, and all the information might not be in the same place. It might be all over the place. So it's, again, having that flexibility, that mindset, saying, okay, be that problem solver, that I need to get all these requirements. Where do I go? Who do I talk to? So having that mindset really, really helps. And then there are more cost-intensive decisions, like finding a facility, which is where we are at right now. We, started off in a home kitchen under the cottage industry license. Then we've moved to a shared licensed facility, which is the hatchery in Garfield Park. And now the next step would be, how do we find our own facility? What are the rules of engagement? So we're actually in that process, both from a regulatory and license and requirement perspective, but also from a financial perspective. It's like, oh, what equipment do we buy? Do we buy it for this product category? Do we buy it for that product category? So we're like, okay, let's use some more time to test out more products and see what that winner is, and then put our money behind a winner or a multiple set of winners. So I think having that financial prudence at every step is very, very critical. And again, a lot of transferable concepts to a research project. Maybe you might need a brand new lab, and it might require, from the nutrition side, you might have to feed 1,000 people and take results and record all of that. Where are you getting that? So I think, find the planning aspect from a strategic side and also from an operational side, very crucial. And then putting that all together and, planning for both challenges and obstacles and how you're going to overcome that, I think could be something that would work for both scenarios. All right, and then finally, be flexible, pivot, and don't beat yourself up. So change, again, another cliche, change is the most constant thing. So in our case, when we started off, when we did the business model canvas, we were like, and we did, the interviews, we interviewed a lot of, I think almost 100 people. And at that point, we were like, oh, okay, it's the mom with the kids with allergies. But from one season on the farmers market, except in different markets, we're like, oh, we have 2 other customer segments. We have the grandmom in some case, who approaches, food allergies from a different aspect. She's worried about nutrition, but for her acceptance, because the grandkid is there just for a day, that is important. So fun and safety, both hand in hand. Then we also came across this other segment, late in life, elderly people with late in life diagnosis of celiac, for example. So they're really, it's not for their kids or their grandkids, but it's for them. And what are their options? They have a mature palate, like what could they do? So that was a segment. And then we saw, and we identified another segment that is an urban hippie, so to speak, who was very much into plant forward food. Like they were very, very focused on the planet. So for us as a business, we needed to have same product, just different messaging for each of this different audience. For the mom, it is about safety and nutrition. For the grandmom or the grandparent, it's about fun and safety and acceptance. For the individual, for the adult individual, it's about nutrition and how can their lifestyle and what could they embrace. And then for the urban hippie, it's about what are the plant friendly, what aspects. So we keep talking about sorghum is good for you, good for the planet, because it's a drought tolerant grain. So our messaging, our pitch, everything caters to our target customer. And another example of change is when John and I started, we were thinking we're going to introduce a popped product or a puffed product, but we spent a long time and it was just not right. Either the nutrition aspect was not right or the taste aspect was not right. And I'll let you decide who was the taste Nazi or the nutrition Nazi. But we just couldn't agree upon a product. So we decided, okay, we'll just put that on the back burner. And we launched in mid 2021 with the crackers. So we kind of had to reorder and prioritize our launch. Again, in your project or your, it might be something you might have to mentally shift a little, and you might have to adjust on the fly. So that flexibility is something that is very important, and in audit and the ability to pivot. I think that's something that's very transferable no matter what path you choose. Secondly, identify new opportunities. I mean, I just realized that Amazon is now no longer just started off as a retail company, became a technology giant, and today has with their One Medical, they're actually a healthcare company. So they identified this opportunity, and now they're one of the largest healthcare providers. So is Walmart. So I think these are huge examples, but as someone starting off in your career, someone like us, like Symphony Foods, which we're at the very nascent stage of a startup. For us, a new opportunity could be, it might be something on the agricultural side. And again, I'll share with you a little later, but that's something that we're doing today. We really think that it has to be, our product offering has to be from seed all the way to snack. So we're talking, today we're engaging with a breeder and a seed provider, and it's still very, very early stages, but we recognize that we need to find the right partners who have the ability to grow with us. So again, this could be something that would apply to anybody at whatever stage of their career, be it still in the academic world or in a large company, or it could be with in a startup world. And then finally, sorry, I just want to make sure how we're doing on time. And then finally, from know when to call it quits. Again, I don't think there's anything called as failure. It's learning. You just have a very different way of learning. Again, this came about in our discussion recently. John and I were talking, and I'm like, yeah, it's important to know when to call it quits. And he's like, oh yeah, because you call it quits either because it does not make financial sense. And we've seen that at the hatchery where we're at, the food incubator, a lot of companies are calling it quits because it just does not make financial sense to them. Companies could call it quits because it just is not the right, you're not in the right headspace for this. It's just taking a toll on your health. Perfectly good reason to call it quits. Or the market has changed. The market completely has changed. So Blockbuster, you're watching videos, you are borrowing DVDs, and the next big thing is online streaming. It's completely irrelevant. So, whether it's a financial decision or a personal decision from just not the right time for you anymore, or you just don't feel the cause, like it is just doesn't make sense to you anymore, or it is the market has changed. Any one of these could be a reason, and don't beat yourself up. Like, you learned something. Your skills that you learn are always transferable. All right, so a little bit about our company. We like to describe ourselves as seated by tradition, rooted in science. Both John and I have science degrees, but from different ends of the spectrum. And then the product that we have, our hero grain is, we'd like to call it, something that's so traditional, and it comes from a different part of the world, but the world has changed, so to speak, that now the US is the largest grower of grain sorghum, even though it originated in Sudan and Ethiopia, and moved across to India, the west coast of India. But now the US is the largest grower of this grain, and this is one of our hero grains that we have today. But we kind of went through this exercise, and we've done it 3 years in a row. When we started in 2020, again, 21, 22, and well, this is our 4th year. Sorry, I can't count apparently. But we've gone through this exercise where we are like, what are we doing? The very first year, it was like, oh, we need to make a snack. I mean, we did not have this part. It was just Symphony Snacks, and it was snacks and food. I mean, it was not even food, it was just snacks. And then we evolved, and this year, this is what it looks like to us, our map, our vision. We've identified 3 pillars: purpose-driven agriculture, nutrition, and snacks and food. So we're looking to expand, beyond just snacks. We want to explore some food options and see if it makes sense. And since we're in a low risk channel, which is direct to consumer, either via online or in the farmers market, we could we think that model makes sense for us as we are still trying to hone in on our cash cow, so to speak. Nutrition, it's a lofty, especially to a school with experts in nutrition. This seems like a wordy marketing statement, but I think where we think the opportunity is, especially looking at the allergen-free products today exist. The top 9 allergen-free is just filled with, it's just empty fillers, like just a lot of empty starches, nutritionally extremely poor. And you're trying to solve for one aspect of making it safe, top 9 allergen free, but at the other end, you're introducing new causes of concern like diabetes, blood pressure, etc., etc. And that's just like picking the low hanging fruits. There's just a myriad of things. And a recent study about sugar alcohols and how they're so bad for you. So there's just so many things, and we want to keep that North Star of nutrition to guide us, and also look for new opportunities. This is where, can we partner? Can we be the guinea pig? If you guys in the academic and research world want to test out something, like, we'd be more than happy. So I think that's something we've added to our strategic framework. Similarly, purpose-driven agriculture, right? A lot of people ask me, oh, why don't you just import the grain from, India, or look at Africa somewhere, wherever it's grown. And I think, taking my sourcing background from Sears, I'm like, no, that's just a supply chain nightmare. We don't want to be caught at the next pandemic with no supply. We want it. And if we're sitting and adding so much carbon footprint by importing the grain from somewhere, like, we're not staying too true to our cause, where it's good for you and good for the planet. So I think having that, identifying who our agriculture is a key pillar for us. That made sense to add that. And again, there's just so many opportunities, and we're keeping our eyes and ears open to see, can we play, like, conversations with this breeder, like I said, but are there AI areas where we could partner? So I think identifying these pillars, some might think is way too premature at our stage as a company, but I think for us, this makes sense. And then having that horizontal of technology, research, and education. So education, again, is a personal cause. I'm on the board of advisory board for the MBA program at Penn State. John is on the advisory board at DeSalle University for science, and he's an adjunct. And together, as Symphony Snacks, we are mentors for this program called the Young Entrepreneur Academy. It's started by the Palatine Chamber of Commerce, and it's looking at 8th grade students. So we are advising or mentoring a young lady who wants to start her own food business. So I think for us, that connection with education, with having that research mindset, and then of course, technology, you cannot exist without technology today. So I think we're keeping that at the forefront, or as a horizontal for our business. And then I'd like to end with this. This is our current portfolio. We have crackers, we have puffs, we have and sorghum is our hero grain. So all of our product offerings today, that is the grain that we'd like our hero to shine, and everything else is just the cast of supporting characters. And we have, again, in the pipeline, we're looking at some food, so using sorghum grain, like a rice. That's one of our ideas we're testing out. Again, some chocolate coated snacks, some kind of fruit-based snacks. So just excited about the prospect. And at the same time, we are hit by challenges galore. It's one step forward, 10 steps back. So yes, that's all I had for today. Thank you.
So thank you, Shway. This is a good time for ask questions, and I thought I'd start out by asking you a couple of questions.
Please do.
And then if anybody else has questions, please jump in. So, I was thinking about your presentation, and you aren't from the food industry, and you've jumped into this. So what is the most surprising thing you've learned about this food industry with respect to nutrition and food safety? And I think this is relevant because it's Department of Food Safety and Nutrition. So
absolutely. So let me preface that by saying, being a business student, you graduate out of business school thinking you're going to be the next big, Bezos, or I don't want to say Musk, but whatever. I'll say, just the next big CEO with a big idea, and you're going to hit that. And then you realize reality is no fun. You start as the coffee person, coffee girl, coffee boy, and not really, but you start from the bottom. So again, using that same analogy, when I'm like, oh, startup, yes, we're going to be a unicorn in 1 year. I think that might be possible if you're a tech startup, but being a food startup, especially a product, I think that was my very, very first learning. And I'm yet to come to your main question, but I just think that the nuances, that there is not just customer acceptance, but there is this whole host of regulations, regulatory requirements, and rightfully so. That was one of the big learnings for me, that I think it works very, very differently. And then from a nutrition standpoint, I think that's the opportunity, right? Like I never looked at, especially coming from I'm South Asian, I'm from India, very, very Indian ingrained culture is, I never had the packaged snack. I was not exposed to that growing up. So for me, it was always fresh food, which was it had a high nutrition component to it. And then I come to America, and as a mom, busy parent, suddenly I'm left with, oh my God, I need to find something that works. So that had already started to seep in. And I think, when we started this company, that was one of the pillars, so to speak, already from the get-go. But again, I did not understand, okay, let's not use an empty starch like tapioca. Oh, let's try to work with sorghum, whole grain sorghum. And though nutritionally it's fantastic, it is an absolute nightmare to work with. So I think, balancing that out from a taste, texture, acceptance perspective with nutrition, with cost, is a challenge that we have every single day.
And what about from food safety side? Just think about the experiences that we've had even working in the hatchery.
Right. So I just passed my food manager safety exam on Monday. So that's one of the requirements. We learned that, it doesn't matter what your degree is. It didn't matter that John has, a master's in food safety. We still had to take this certification, and one person from the business had to do it. So, he was voluntold. Uh, but then it's recommended that everybody in the organization does it. So all of 2 people in our organization were mandated by one of the co-founders to do it. And I signed up on Feb 28th, Feb 28th of 2022. So on Feb 26th of 2023, I get this email on Sunday saying your course expires. And I'm like, oh Lord, do I take it? I already paid the money? So I was scrambling. And as I was scrambling for that exam, I'm like, oh, I know all of this. John keeps insisting, and I am like mentally cursing him and piercing that voodoo doll all along. But it helped me. Like, I think I could have not studied at all and maybe passed, but I did not want to take that chance. So I did study, but it was a way of thinking. So to answer your question, John, I think food safety for all food startups is not a degree, it's not a certification, it is not what you come with, but it's a way of thinking. And I think that's what we've embraced at Symphony Foods. And what we are seeing at the hatchery, we attended our monthly town hall yesterday. And one of the things that was called out was, oh, there are people that don't hand wash, let alone double hand washing, which is what is required. They don't even hand wash. And I'm like, oh my God, that is gross, not just from a personal hygiene perspective, but just from, from a perspective of food safety. So, and this is at the hatchery where you are mandated to do all these courses, get all the licenses. So I think, to answer your question, food safety needs to be a way of thinking in every food organization.
Well said. Does anybody else have questions?
I have a question. How has consumer reception been for any of your products? And specifically, I know you came in wanting to with the focus on like your kids. Do your kids like these snacks, or have any other children tried them and liked them?
Yes, I think that's an excellent question, Morgan. So thank you for asking that. So if I were to go back to that business canvas, one of the things is, understanding who your customer is. So, when we started off, we were thinking our customer is the mom with kids, but ultimately, if the kid is the one that has to consume it. So our process was, my kids are the taste testers. And we also have, a good set of friends. So for our pizza flavor, for example, we had maybe 30, 40 iterations of it, which was approved by, first generation Italians and their kids. So we take feedback. We have like over 1,000 data points just from last season, where every person that we sell to at the farmers market, we collect customer data. And one of the things is, in earlier on, especially our chocolate cracker, there's very, very little sweetener. It's very noir. Kids would bite into it and spit it out. And we're like, okay, that's good feedback. Maybe we started prefacing to parents saying, hey, it's very noir. It's like a very bitter dark chocolate. So just FYI, you're welcome to take a sample, but your kid might not like it. Try the apple cinnamon, which is a kid favorite. It's like a Teddy Graham. So I think, we're like constantly, taking feedback and improving our product. So we've now made it, kind of use a little bit of monk fruit to highlight that little bit of sweetness, switched from agave to date powder, and that brings out a very different flavor. So anytime we make any small changes, we first test with our friends and family, or our family, and then move to the friend circle, then sample it at the farmer's market. The pizza puff was probably, we took our pizza cracker and made it into a puff. And we made a small batch, but we kind of said that, hey, you might like the cracker. We knew it was like a top flavor in a cracker, but and so it ended up being our top seller, period. So it was, I hope that answers your question, Morgan.
Yeah, it does. I was just kind of curious because I know you guys dropped some off at the clinic not too long ago and we all tried them, but just kind of wondering what other people are thinking. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So what did you think of them?
Well, I thought they were really interesting. I'm not quite one to like always grab crackers, I guess, but
Oh,
like
so you've only had the crackers. You've not had
just
the
the
puff.
crackers. No, I was
Okay.
curious about the puffs though, because I was looking at your website again. And the puffs look really good, I have to say. And even like the puffed corn, I'm curious like how it might compare to even popcorn or a snack that like that people are choosing a lot right now. So
Yeah.
but the
So-
crackers were pretty good.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think that's what's moving us along in the sense of acceptance. So with the pop sorghum, we currently have it in more savory flavors. We tried the sweet flavors, which is on our website, but honestly, the customers preferred it more savory. And I think from a use case perspective, they used to having cheesy popcorn, like movie theater, like that was the activity. And here we are saying, sorghum, yeah, sorry, it's just very tiny. So and it does not have cheese, oh, by the way, or butter. So it's like, okay, how do we position it? It was all about positioning. And it was like, oh, it's a grain replacement in your salad. Or you could put it as in lieu of croutons, in your soups. So I think when we presented it with a use case of how you could have your sorghum, and oh, by the way, if you still like it as is, you could just pop it. So I think we started the salad and the soup route to get them to get that acceptance. The puffs were much easier because they're just like Cheetos, and this is way healthier. But then, actually one of my kids, I think, just dunked it in milk and said, oh, mama, it tastes really good, like cereal. So then it was like, John tried it. He was like, oh, it does taste really good. And then that became like our selling point, saying that, hey, you want a cereal replacement that is nutritious yet not sugary, then try this. So, and that's an opportunity for us as well as a business. So that's something that we're thinking through.
Yeah, very cool.
And
Hi,
another,
Shwetha.
oh, sorry. Hi, Aishwarya.
Hi, so not a question actually, but I got a chance to taste your puffs, I think, and pops at our unit operation class.
Okay.
And I just wanted to compliment you guys because I guess pops, yeah, the pops were really nice, and my Indian taste buds were like pretty delighted to taste like that Indian flavor in those puffs in America. And I think here people are also enjoying it, but the the pops, I really liked. It was really nice. Yeah, and it had some masala flavor to it. I
Yes.
don't know which masala it was, but it was really tasty. So that was great.
Thank you, Aishwarya. That is actually makes my heart feel so, I'm delighted. But so I think this is also part of going back to who the me aspect, and kind of goes back that full circle, if you will. I'm really trying to embrace my Indianness as much as possible, and that was a tribute to. We call it the Kari Nahari, but it's somewhere between a garam masala and a curry mix that the British use. But and I'd like to comment, and it kind of addresses what you said, and also what Morgan said from an acceptance standpoint, and what John asked about nutrition. So for those of you who are not from India or Indian, you might not know, you might have seen this. It's the idli, which is it's like a steamed dumpling. And at every point, I'm trying to dump it in John's radar saying, hey, idli, super nutritious. And he's like, boring, not fun, not this. So, and it's like, how do I eat it? Like, when do I eat it? So I think for me, the challenge is, I know it's nutritious. I can make it super nutritious. We could make it tasty, but how do we sell it? How's the package good? So that's the quintessential new opportunity, but we don't know how to solve for, and we're constantly thinking about it.
Yeah, just a comment on that. And I think, Morgan, you brought up a really good point. One of the things that was a challenge is the second you go whole grain, actually, we like to consider ours whole foods. We tried to use, like, if we're going to use apple, we use whole apple. If we use, we don't tend to use extracts. We've gotten rid of the agave that we were using in the past. And we're using a whole fruit as a replacer for our sweetener with like sweet said. So the challenge has been to make something shelf stable like your grandmother or great grandmother would make, right? Where it was a whole ingredient that she cooked for you. You know, it tasted good. And one of the things that, you know, was fun in the beginning was people would try our cracker with this expectation, because it was, we consider it both healthy because it's whole grain, it's whole ingredients, and allergen free. And the expectation was, oh, this is going to taste awful. You know, that was always the caveat that people came to us was, well, I have a really low bar. I think that's a huge challenge in the food industry, and something they struggle with as food scientists. Getting that balance between good tasting, nutrition, and acceptance. And Shweta just brought up a great example, right? Here, I have this product, yeah, but it does, you know, it just doesn't do anything for me. It's boring. What am I mean, if I was the consumer, I'd never buy it, right? There's just nothing exciting. So it's forever our challenge in the business. So I think that's it for time, though.
Yep.
Cindy, you still there?
Yes, I am. I was just going to say, we got one last minute to wrap it up.
All right. Well, I'm sorry. I'm just realizing there were chat messages, but so, you know, please, what's happening to me? Feel free to, we'd like to use this opportunity to kind of open the dialogue between, you know, please feel free to reach out via a website or send me an email, send John an email. More than happy to see, you know, happy to chat about the business, about our journey, about, you know, any new opportunities that you think we should focus on. We'd welcome any ideas and would love to keep the dialogue going. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and thank you for an outstanding presentation.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Shwetha.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.